Hello, everyone. I'm Kamraun.
And I'm Billy. Welcome to the HorseFrog podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors.
Today, we will be discussing Book 4, Chapter 12 of Gardens of the Moon, a novel in the Malazan Book of the Fallen.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. This is not a book review, and it's not intended to be a replacement to reading the books. Know that Kamraun and I think that this is the best series ever written. We're not going to be providing critique. This is just fanboy love.
Yeah, there will be some considerable love, some of the stuff going on today.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We will be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those that have not read the books. We will try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective book.
Now, there is a quick warning for today's episode. Does it contain graphic violence or threats of violence?
Threats of violence.
Threats of violence, I think, would be the... Hey, at least there's no smoking.
There's drinking, though.
Oh.
There's graphic like alcohol consumption today.
I don't think, as we've been doing the Walking Dead the binge through here, as we're kind of getting close to the end, and it's like I'm always amazed at the list of the things. You know, it's like violence is listed underneath smoking. Graphic violence is ahead of smoking, but smoking rates above normal violence.
Okay. Interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Don't know the methodology there.
I me neither. I'm just curious.
All right. I had one addition prior to the episode today. During our episode covering the first part of Chapter 11, we made a joke about whether Kruppa represents Erikson in the books. Dane, one of our Patreon subscribers, sent me a screenshot from the Malazan wiki. Apparently, Erikson has said that in some ways, Kruppa represents himself. It's funny how we developed that suspicion just joking around.
Right? I love it.
Yeah, hilarious.
That's you. I think you're the one that came up with that. That's more of your brilliance.
Oh, well, I mean, I got a good sounding board here. So
I'm good at winging it, but when it comes to
nah, man, you've had some good insights.
Okay,
you have, yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Dane.
Yeah, Dane, we love you, dude.
Appreciate your feedback. And for anybody that ever wants to contact us, it's contact@horsefrogproductions.com. We always appreciate hearing from everybody.
Yes,
thanks for listening.
Yes, thanks.
All right, Chapter 12. The chapter begins with Kruppa searching for some information in a book within Mammoth's study. He kneaded his brow. Quote, "And in the calling down to earth, the god was crippled, and so chained in its place. In the calling down, many lands were sundered by the god's fists, and things were born and things were released. Changed and crippled was this god." End quote. Kruppa took a moment to complain about the length of the work. He said, "Brevity. Kruppa prays for brevity." He read on. Quote, "And it bred caution in the unveiling of its powers. The crippled god bred caution, but not well enough, for the powers of this earth came to it in the end. Chained was the crippled god, and so chained was it destroyed. And upon this barren plain that imprisoned the crippled god, many gathered to the deed. Hood, gray wanderer of death, was among the gathering, as was Decembra, then Hood's warrior, though it was here and in this time that Decembra shattered the bonds Hood held upon him. Also among the gathering were," end quote. Kruppa groaned and began flipping through the pages. There were so many listed he half expected his grandmother's name to appear. After searching through 3 pages, he found what he was looking for. Quote, "And among those that came from the vaulted heavens of silver, the Tist Andi, dwellers of darkness in the place before light, black dragons numbering 5, and in their league sailed red-winged Silana, said to dwell among the Tist Andi in their fang of darkness, descending from the vaulted heavens of silver." End quote. It may be tempting to gloss over some of the text that Kruppa is reading, but it is setting up the entire series.
Yes.
If you have looked at the names of the books, you can see that the final book in the core 10 books is named The Crippled God. We have just learned that he was called down to this earth and chained in place. The process crippled him. Many were present in the chaining. Most surprising to me, for reasons that I can't discuss, is the inclusion of Decembra in this list. I'll come back to this point later when I'm able to discuss this without spoiling anything.
Yeah, and I don't know why I keep being so surprised that Erikson telegraphs everything so early. I mean, he just gave the book 10 title in book 1.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he had to have an overarching idea, I guess,
yes.
of what the story would be.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
It is. And also this last, and the reason for you with the Decembra, also, I don't want to say too much. That's exactly the question I was going to ask, because it's mentioned that he was present at the last chaining. So this last chaining, is that what this book is in reference to? And how long ago is this last chaining? They got to do this every...
Yeah. It had to be a long time ago.
So often. Yes. But they got to renew it every so often, right?
I don't know, because they're saying it was during the calling down, right? He was called down, then chained in place.
Okay.
I don't know if there were multiples. I thought it was just the one.
I seem to have I'm remembering forward and backwards at the same time, because we've read this series so many times, that part of me wants to think that they had to get back together every 100,000 years to kind of renew the bond or the bind or something like that. I may be wrong on that. I don't know why I'm thinking that.
Yeah. Kruppa nodded to himself, having found what he was seeking. He thought, a descending fang of darkness. Moonspawn? Home to 5 black dragons and 1 red dragon? He shivered at the thought. He then wondered at how Call had come to know this information. The answer would have to wait, since the significance of the information revealed a truth about Darujistan's present situation. Mamet entered the study, bringing Kruppa herbal tea. He asked, has Aladart's realm compendium been beneficial, Kruppa? Kruppa confirmed it had been. He then said, Kruppa has learned the value of modern language. Such long-lipped dribbles common to those ancient scholars are a curse Kruppa is thankful to find extinct in our time. Mamet said, aha, then coughed and looked away. He's trying not to choke.
Right?
Whoa, the irony.
Gracious. Yeah. There's only room for one person to carry on that per generation, I guess.
Mamet asked if Kruppa minded telling him what he had been searching for. Kruppa lied and said, not at all, Mamet. I thought to find mention of my grandmother's name. Mamet frowned and said, I see. Well, I'll not inquire as to your luck, then. Kruppa's eyes widened at the mention of luck, and he said, please do not. Luck is such a dreadful companion these days, with all awry as all happens to be. But thank you for understanding Kruppa's need for circumspection. They exchanged some more pleasantries, then Mamet proposed they move to the common room to sit before the hearth. After they sat down, Kruppa inquired about Mamet's progress with his book. Mamet told him progress was slow, as one would expect. They sat in silence for some time as Mamet worked up to something. Kruppa wiggled his toes while waiting. That seemed oddly childlike.
I don't know why. I have this impression of him as a childlike creature, even though he's not. You know, I'm a victim of what he portrays himself to be. It's the cherubic expression.
Mm-hmm. Is it his general lack of interest in women, you think?
That could be, but it's just, it seems like he has a general lack of interest in anything, but we know that.
But food?
Right.
And drink.
And drink.
And
but
information.
And info. There's something, mm-hmm. He is he's one of those guys. He's an information broker.
All he cares about is being at the center of things.
You know, he's very much, John Constantine in the DC universe is very much like that. It's not that he necessarily wants to fix it. He just wants to know what's going on for himself.
He's a busybody.
He said, yes, that's Kruppa. On a multiversal scale, that's Kruppa.
Yep.
He's a nosy body.
Yep. One of my children, I'm not going to say which, has a tendency to want to be a wallfly while other siblings are getting in trouble.
Oh, I understand.
Has a tendency to interject.
Is he adding on? Is he adding on to the list of complaints?
Who said it's a he? I'm not gonna. Well, I'm
sorry.
just saying. I do have a daughter, and I'm
Is
not
this-
gonna
is this-
give any
right.
more ammunition
No.
for people to guess which child it is. But there is one child in particular.
No, I just mean, but acting as this person's like prosecutor. Are they like, are they just like keep heaping up on the like list of charges? Is that what they're also doing?
If there was a court jester that was there to inflame the situation, then yes, that role would be filled.
Okay, right on.
He's the resident. He's holding a can of gasoline, just poured it on the.
Oh my goodness.
When he was ready, Mamet asked Kruppa if he had seen much of Crocus lately. Kruppa raised his eyebrows and said, "Long ago, Kruppa made a promise to a man, the man being a concerned uncle to a young boy who found the streets an exciting playground. I, the lad, dreamed of sword fights and dark deeds committed in alleys on behalf of princesses in disguise, or some such thing, and to such promises Kruppa has availed of himself thoroughly, for he, too, loved the boy. And as with any endeavor, survival is measured in ability, and so did Kruppa take the lad under his silken wing, with some success, yes?" As Kruppa spoke, Mamet had his eyes closed and nodded. He nodded again when Kruppa asked his question. Kruppa then said, "And so, to answer the uncle's question, indeed Kruppa has seen the lad." Talk about brevity. Jeez.
Right. This could have been surmised in a sentence. If this is my father and me talking, it would be like 2 words exchanged. It'd be like, this could happen. Yep. All right. It's like, thanks. It would be a thank you. But.
Mamet leaned forward and fixed Kruppa with an intense gaze. He asked if Kruppa had seen anything odd in Crocus's actions. Kruppa's eyes narrowed, and he told Mamet yes, then went on to explain Crocus's desire to return the spoils from his last job. Kruppa was unsure of what to make of the situation, but Crocus's focused intensity struck Kruppa as laudable. Mamet agreed and asked if Kruppa would believe Crocus had expressed an interest in a formal education. He couldn't understand his behavior, noting that he was positively obsessed about something. Kind of going back to our point about Kruppa not being interested in women, you have to wonder if these two can't see the forest for the trees here because they have focused on other things in life than women.
Yes.
The pursuit of women is such a driving force for most men.
Yes,
right?
It is.
Yeah.
Spoken from a man's point of view who has just acquired another wife, yes. Yes. Yeah. So this is a big blind spot for these fellas, and I'm assuming it's because they're such intellectuals and their interests lie elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, they just seem kind of aloof.
Yeah. It's like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Just got to return all this stuff. I don't get it, man.
Kruppa proposed looking into the mystery. Mamet thanked him, relieved, and mentioned he wanted to know the source of this ambition. He feared it may burn itself out, but if they could nourish it... Kruppa agreed and said, "There is more to life than petty thievery, after all." Mamet grinned and said he was surprised to hear that from Kruppa. Kruppa said that it would be better if such comments were left between just them. He went on to say that he thought Murillo knew something of Crocus's intentions. Mamet asked how Murillo was doing. Kruppa said, "The net about the lad remains intact. For one, Ralik Nam has taken the responsibility seriously indeed. Mayhap he sees something of his own lost youth in Crocus. In truth, Ralik is a man whose true nature escapes Kruppa. Fiercely loyal for certain, and one who, as you well know, honors his debts with such vigor as to humble those around him, excepting Kruppa, naturally. Yet, is it blood that travels in his veins? One must wonder at times."
Wow.
As Kruppa spoke, a distant look entered Mamet's face, and Kruppa tensed, sensing magic in the air. Someone communicated with Mamet, and Kruppa recognized the warren that was in use. Kruppa waited. After some time, Mamet rose to his feet and said, "I have some research to do. As for you, Kruppa, Master Baruch wishes to speak with you immediately." Kruppa said he thought he sensed Baruch's presence, then said his goodbyes. Mamet entered his study and began rapidly looking through the brittle pages of some book. Kruppa thought that whatever had happened must be serious, given how Mamet's etiquette had been jarred. He'd not keep Baruch waiting too long, but he would walk slowly enough to plan, to scheme, to anticipate, to backtrack with some thoughts, to leap ahead with others, to do all the things necessary. First, he needed to discern the nature of the woman that had been following him. He knew she killed Chert, knew that she had seen Crocus notice the blood on her weapon, and knew that she had marked Ralik Nam as an assassin the moment she saw him. He thought that she could be the key to everything, for the coin had turned its face upon her, if only for a brief moment. That could return to them all, for good or ill.
And I love the fact that even the smallest details seem to be observed by Kruppa.
Oh, yeah, he's very observant.
Very astute.
Everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, he saw Crocus see the blood on the weapon.
Yeah.
That's impressive because, well, I was thinking Sari was looking at Kruppa, but I guess at that moment when Crocus looked at her weapon, she was looking at Crocus. I think they were kind of looking at each other. So she must not have been paying attention to Kruppa at that time to see if he was looking at her. Yeah,
he's something.
Crone sat waiting for Baruch. She ruffled her singed feathers and hopped about in agitation. She disliked waiting, feeling that she had 1,000 tasks to attend to, though she couldn't think of any of them. Dude, she cracks me up.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued by all the ancients that are in play in these series because they're always they're wound all so differently. But Crone is she's kind of a strange one because she's not, at least the other ones are kind of humanoid. You know, I can kind of identify with them. You know, she's not humanoid at all.
I think I appreciate the behaviors of Crone and her kin because I grew up with pet birds.
Oh,
so their mannerisms are interesting to see come through in the text.
I do find birds intriguing, sure.
Yeah, parrots are pretty funny sometimes.
And I know that they're pretty long-lived fellows, too.
Yeah, some of them. Baruch entered the room from his study, apologizing to Crone. She sensed sorcery trailing from him in thick, pungent streams. Crone said that she had been commanded by her master, Anamander Rake, to update Baruch on her adventures in the Revi Plain. Baruch noted her injury. She said only her pride had been injured and to listen to her story. Baruch raised an eyebrow at her dark mood. Crone went on to tell Baruch of the small wooden puppet that approached from the north, a creation of soul-shifting and sourced from a warren of chaos. Its power was immense, twisted and malign, even to great ravens, many of whom had been killed as the puppet slipped in and out of its warren. It seemed to take pleasure from such acts. The puppet pursued a power that Crone could not approach, and whatever that power was, it was seeking something in the Gadrobi Hills. Anamander Rake wanted to know why two forces were converging on the hills. The color had drained from Baruch's face. He said the Malazan Empire was in search of something it couldn't hope to control, something buried in the hills. Whether they were capable of freeing that thing was another matter. Crone impatiently asked who was buried in the hills. Baruch went on to tell Crone of the Jaghut tyrant, and that he knew a man in Darujistan who had gathered all available information about the tyrant's burial place. He told Crone of the precise location of a standing stone that was mostly buried. It was the starting point to find the entrance.
Right.
The standing stone stuck up like a hand's width above the ground. 20 feet of it was underground, buried.
Yes.
Crone asked where the entrance was, and Baruch said he would not divulge that information. He would speak with his colleague first, then may or may not provide her with more details regarding the location. Crone began to argue. She said, "This avails us nothing. My lord," Baruch cut her off, "is extremely powerful. His intentions are anything but clear, Crone, no matter that we are allied. What lies within that barrow can destroy a city, this city. That I will not allow to enter Rake's hands. You shall have the location of the standing stone, for it is there that the hunters must first go. I have one question to ask, Crone. This puppet, are you certain it pursues this other power?" Crone bobbed her head. She said, "You assume both powers are Malazan. Why?" Baruch gives her his reasoning. The Malazans have access to vast libraries in the lands they've conquered, and they'll do anything to capture Darujistan. The Jaghut tyrant is no secret. Also, the powers approaching from the north, they could only be Malazan. He wasn't sure why one power hid from the other, but any empire as large as the Malazan Empire was bound to have competing factions within it. Regardless, it posed a threat to Darujistan. Krone was obviously displeased. She said, "You will be kept informed of the activities on the Rivi Plain. My lord must decide whether to intercept these powers before they reach the Gadrobi Hills." She turned an angry eye to Baruch and said, "He has received little assistance from his allies. I trust when we next speak that situation will be remedied." I do love her sassiness.
Absolutely. Well, she is ancient. I imagine dealing with us mortals has got to be a task. We do everything so slowly. It's everything and moves so quick to them anyhow.
What's interesting is she's really old. You compare her to, say, Tool, who seems infinitely patient. Yeah. And Krone is the opposite. But they're both extremely long-lived. Yeah.
Yeah. And
personality thing, huh?
It's just, I guess, part of it's personality, and we don't really know what's ever really truly been done. I mean, we do know what's been done to the Talan, but how it has impacted them is hard to, I don't understand it, how it would impact them on a psychological level, because it's a vow. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how they seem. Well, I guess it's maybe just a humanoid viewpoint versus a non-humanoid viewpoint too.
Possibly. I'll have to ask the parrots what they think about that.
Yeah. Or we could just ask Mr. Erikson, should he ever deign to come on our show?
Man, we don't have any interviewing experience.
I know it. I know it.
Just like it took a lot of practice, and we're still practicing at this, we'd have to do some other interviews to get ready for that. Yes. Because that's not going to be my first interview. I better be practiced before. Yeah. If we ever get that opportunity.
What's that?
Yeah, I would definitely have the stay on target button ready for that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was our initial attempt, the stay on target button, at coming up with a way to not digress.
Before we found out that we wanted digression to be our profession.
You're not supposed to say it out loud.
Sorry.
They don't need to know that we want to digress.
Oh, come on.
All right. No, I want to put that in there because, it's just joking around. So,
yeah. Help save this cut, people. He's very heavy-handed with the scissors.
Oh, man. When it's warranted. All right. Baruch said his first meeting with Rake had been the only one. Assistance demanded communication. The dissatisfaction went both ways.
Nice.
Krone muttered, "My lord has been busy with his side of things." Then she flapped up to the windowsill. Baruch stared at her and darkly asked, "Busy? In what way?" Krone purred, "In due time," and flapped off. Baruch cursed and used his warrant to return the window to its place and slammed the shutters shut. Performing this magically was not as satisfying as physically doing it.
Right.
He poured himself some wine and paused. He'd conjured a small demon less than half an hour ago. He'd needed a spy. Something told him he'd need to call upon deadlier creatures in the future. Summoning demons. We haven't seen much of this activity mentioned short of the Kenrila demon that killed Nightchill in the Battle of Pale.
I know it, and there is really not a lot mentioned on that kind of side. Is Moby summoned?
Has to be.
That's what I was thinking.
But I don't know how much we want to divulge right now.
No, I'm not going to say. I don't want to say anything else. But his presence kind of brings an unusual presence too, because Moby is, I think that's why I'm fascinated with Darujistan. I think we've talked about this in the past. It just reeks of Raiders of the Lost Ark / Arabian Nights. All this. Mm-hmm. It kind of has all that great vibe of all that captured all at once. Mm-hmm. And in fact, did you ever see any of the old Aladdin movies from the 60s?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, those are a bunch of this great Ray Harryhausen stop animation, claymation. Mm-hmm. And he would face off against a bunch of mythical creatures and stuff. So this kind of it has that That's why I think I'm so drawn to Darujistan. It brings back all that, which is all that is, especially, Aladdin is Arabian Nights anyhow. So
Yeah.
I just love that flavor.
I think I saw there was a Jason and the Argonauts movie from that era, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I saw that.
Yeah, it's the same. It'll be the same animator. It'll probably been Ray Harryhausen stuff.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. Oh, wait, but real quick, back to Baruch being mad about how slamming a window with magic is not nearly as satisfying as slamming it yourself. Is that like the same thing with our cell phones? Just touching the end button is not nearly as satisfying as an old-fashioned phone, which some of our listeners may not even know. There used to be real phones you could slam down when you were very aggravated at people, and it had a very authoritative feel when you could slam it down, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, made a lot of noise. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from slamming your cell phone down on the table, really.
About $1,200 is going to stop you from doing that real quick.
Yeah. Baruch opened his warren and reached out to Mammoth. He said, "I need you." A scene appeared in his head, and he saw Mammoth sitting with Kruppa in front of the hearth, and he said, "Good, I need you both." So this scene that we just witnessed took place at exactly the same time as the meeting between Kruppa and Mammoth.
Yes.
Yeah, and this was the telecommunication going on between the two. Yeah. Within the warren of shadow, a hound approached Quickben and stopped a short distance away, then sat. The hound was wide and heavy, with pasty white fur, with white eyes and no pupils. That sounds pretty intimidating.
Extremely. All of these, even the smallest of these hounds just would scare us to death because we know what they can do to us.
Mm-hmm. Quickben bowed and said, "You are the hound called Blind, mate to Baran, and mother of Gear. I come seeking no harm. I would speak with your master." There was a growl beside him, and he froze. Slowly he turned his head and looked down. Less than a foot from his right leg lay another hound, this one mottled brown and tan. It was lean and scarred. Its eyes were watching Blind. Quickben nodded and said, "Baran." Dude. 1 foot away, and he didn't even notice it approach.
No. See, if it was laying there, did he just almost walk on him?
The way the last chapter ended, he heard the howl of the hounds in the distance.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I think Blind probably distracted him, and Baran snuck up on him.
Yeah. Now, a quick question for you. Do you think, because I never get an answer, I've never looked real deeply for answers, the hounds, do you think, what kind of intelligences are we dealing with? Are they like crone? They're not shown to have any, we're never shown any glimpse into them a whole lot. I'm just kind of curious.
In the scene that's coming up, there are indications that Shadowthrone is able to communicate with them in some way.
Yes.
I don't know that they're at the level of intelligence of crone, though.
Okay. More primordial, though, just more...
I would say, definitely more feral.
I think they're almost like more like anger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More Hulk style.
Mm-hmm.
More primal.
There was another growl behind Quickben. He turned and saw a third hound 10 feet away. It was black and sleek, with its glowing red eyes fixed on him. Quickben said, "And Shan, have you found your quarry, or are you my escort?" Baran rose silently. Its shoulders were level with Quickben's chest. And he's not short.
Dadgum.
I think it's noted that he's fairly tall. Him and Kalam both, yeah. Yeah, that's a big boy.
You know what it is? They're like, have you ever seen the Mastiffs?
Like a Cane Corso? Or, yeah, okay.
Yeah, my dad is 6'7". Okay, my uncle had one of these things out with his animals that kind of kept watch over his. He had some cows and stuff like that, and this dog would put his feet on my dad's shoulders and look down into my dad's face.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it
would eat your head.
Yeah. That's kind of what I imagine that the hounds are like to me. It's like, about like that.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about cleaning up after that thing.
Oh, my word.
Just the food
Taking
bill.
that dude for a walk. Oh, my, yeah. You got to feed him a half a deer a day every, like, a half hour or something like that.
Gosh. You got to take a 10-gallon trash bag with you when you go on a walk.
Right. and he's walking you.
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Blind rose and trotted off. She stopped and looked back. The remaining two hounds growled to spur Quickben on. This is our first description of the realm of shadow. Quote, the land around them changed slowly, details slipping into sourceless shadows and re-emerging subtly altered. On what the wizard thought of as the north horizon, a gray forest climbed a slope to what might have been a wall. This wall was in place of sky. Maybe it was sky, but to Quick Ben it looked strangely close, even though the forest was leagues away. Glancing overhead did not help him confirm or refute his feeling that this realm was bordered by a magical wall, for it, too, seemed close, almost within reach. Yet black clouds rode winds above him, skewing his perceptions and making him dizzy. End quote. That sounds pretty disorienting.
Yeah.
To me, the realm always appears dark with an almost purplish tint to everything, and the air shimmers a bit. How does it look to you?
Yeah, kind of like the inside of like a thunderstorm, kind of like real dark color, but yeah, it would be real. But it's very strange though. I'm like you, it would, and I would feel kind of claustrophobic too, even though there's distance. It seems like the distance is an illusion, maybe, possibly. I imagine, especially like the idea of the forest in here, kind of creeps me out too, because I'm kind of creeped out by forest in general.
Really?
Well, in the daylight, not so much so. I just don't want to be in them at night. But I think I like the Black Forest of Germany, something real so thick and overgrown you couldn't even see the sky if you were inside of it. But yes, very claustrophobic realm.
Yeah, definitely. As you're talking about just being creeped out by forests, I remember went camping. This was in the Pacific Northwest by Mount Rainier. And one of my friends, this is hilarious. I wake up in the middle of the night, and my friend, we had a bunch of chili for dinner, and he was having some distress in his stomach. And he's sitting there, and he's like it almost looked like he was praying.
He might have been praying at that moment.
He probably was. And I'm like, dude, are you okay? And he says, I have to go to the bathroom so bad, but I don't want to go outside. I'm so scared. And I'm like, all right, do I need to go with you to walk you to the bathroom? And he's like, yes, if you would, that would be great. So we get our flashlights, and I walk him to the campground's restroom. And while he's in the restroom, I'm out there by myself, and it is super dark and silent, and it was it's a little unnerving. There are bears in the area,
right?
So I didn't hear anything, but the world kind of creeps in on you in those moments.
Dude, my problem is that I've watched Evil Dead movies, and I'm too susceptible to my imagination as it is. It's like the cabin in the woods kind of thing. I don't want to be there. It's like I'm okay in the daylight, but once it gets dark, I feel like I'm like spamming a can for whatever monsters are waiting me in the dark. Whether it's serial killers or Jason Voorhees, or or if it's like some tricked out version of Loki from The Ritual, which is sorry, from some strange movie I watched. But yeah, I don't know what's in the dark. I don't want to know.
Yeah,
that's why I prefer. This is about as I live in a suburban area close to areas of nice emptiness, but it's like I wouldn't want to live out in the open though, by myself. Oh, okay. It kind of creeps me out a little bit, dude.
Yeah. As they walked, another hound, which he recognized as Doan, joined their company. Doan was the firstborn to Rude, who was the pack leader, and Rude's first mate, Palik. Doan was a dark gray male with one blue and one yellow eye. It didn't come close, but Quick Ben judged that it was the largest hound he had yet seen. Its movement indicated it was capable of deadly speed. They came to a crest of a low rise, and Quick Ben saw their destination. He sighed. It was just like the image carved upon the altar within the temples dedicated to Shadow Throne. Shadow Keep lay ahead. It looked like an enormous lump of black glass, fractured with curving planes, rippled in places, with some corners glistening white as if crushed. The largest surface facing them was mottled and dull, with a weathered surface of obsidian. There were no windows, but many of the slick surfaces looked semi-translucent and seemed to glow with an inner light. No door, gate, or drawbridge was visible. I always picture this like the Emerald City in either The Wizard of Oz or, more recently, the Gunslinger series.
Yeah.
If you change the color and shatter many of the towers in the Emerald City, I think it would look a lot like Shadowkeep.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I go with the Emerald City from the Gunslinger version.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I imagine. Yeah. Now, just a quick query: the Shadow Throne rope. Are those just titles? Like when he took over this realm, he became the new Shadow Throne in replacement of the previous Shadow Throne?
I don't know if they ever tell us if he made that name up or if it was a pre-existing name that he adopted.
Well, because I'm curious because of the fact that if these priests have seen the image of Shadow Keep, I'm just kind of curious if it's a title or if it's like you said, maybe it's just one he just kind of took for himself, but it's just whatever they call. I guess Shadow Throne is always Shadow Throne. He's the throne of Shadow. He sits at the throne of Shadow. So okay, that's all.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn someday.
Yeah, maybe so.
They arrived at the keep, and Quick Ben exclaimed in surprise as Blind strode into the stone and disappeared. He hesitated until Baran came close to nudging him. He walked up to the wall and held out his hands as he stepped through it. He felt nothing, passing through effortlessly to find himself in a hallway that could have been found in any estate. The corridor lay ahead for 30 feet, barren of any trappings. It ended at double doors that were now flanked by Blind and Doan. The doors opened on their own. Quick Ben entered a domed room. There was a simple obsidian throne on a raised dais opposite him. The floor had no rugs and the walls were bare except torches every 10 feet. He counted 40 of them. Their light seemed to struggle against the shadows. The fact that he counted them so quickly, or at all, really surprised me. He's really sharp, gathering in all the details around him.
I know it. Really sharp eye. He'd make a great LP guy. Be bad for shoplifters.
Yeah, you put him and Kruppa in there.
Dude.
That'd be the dream LP team.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. The sharp eye. It's just him and Kruppa. They're just so quick with that detail. Notice all that small stuff that I have to work hard to see.
Mm-hmm. Initially, he thought the throne was empty, but as he approached, he saw a figure seated there, composed of almost translucent shadows, hooded and vaguely human in form. He could feel the god's attention fixed solely on him, and he barely repressed a shiver. Shadowthrone said, "Shan tells me you know the names of my hounds." Quick Ben bowed and told Shadowthrone he was once an acolyte within one of Shadowthrone's temples. Shadowthrone was silent for some time, then said, "Is it wise to admit such a thing, wizard? Do I look kindly upon those who once served me, but then abandoned my ways? Tell me, I would hear from you what my priests teach." Quick Ben said, "To begin upon the path of shadow, and then to leave it is rewarded by the rope." Shadowthrone asked what that means. Quick Ben said, "I am marked for assassination by all who follow your ways, Lord." Shadowthrone pointed out, "Yet here you stand, wizard." Quick Ben bowed again and said, "I would strike a deal, Lord." Shadowthrone giggled, then raised a hand and told Shan not to strike Quick Ben. The Black Hound stepped around Quick Ben and walked up to lay down before Shadowthrone's seat. She eyed Quick Ben blankly. Shadowthrone asked Quick Ben if he knew why he spared his life. Quick Ben confirmed he did know why. Shadowthrone leaned forward and said, "Shan wants you to tell me." Quick Ben looked in Shan's red eyes and said, "Shadowthrone loves deals." Shadowthrone leaned back and sighed. He said, "Acolyte indeed. Well then, wizard, speak on while you can." Quick Ben started with a question. He asked, "Does Gear still live?" Shan's eyes flared, and she halfway stood up before Shadowthrone touched her head. Shadowthrone's curiosity was piqued, something few had been able to do, and he answered, "Yes, Gear survives. By all means, continue."
Talk about testicular fortitude.
Man, this whole thing that he's doing.
Yes. Yeah. It's pure insanity, dude. I know it doesn't seem like much to folks who aren't paying attention, but it's like, man, trust us. This is pretty unnerving.
Dude, yeah. He went through the warren of chaos to penetrate into a realm without invitation where he could be ripped apart at any moment.
by someone who he's made mad previously. Who doesn't?
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. Yep.
Yeah, right.
Quick Ben proposed delivering into Shadowthrone's hands the one who offended his hound. Shadowthrone asked how. He belongs to Opon, and he's of course referring to Perrin. Quick Ben clarified that he wasn't referring to Perrin, but the one who led Gear into the chamber and sought to take his soul and would have succeeded if not for Opon's mortal tool. The other one he speaks of is Hairlock, who led Gear into the chamber.
Yeah, time to throw that crazy rascal under the bus, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's going to get what's coming to him.
Yes, he is.
Shadowthrone asks what Quick Ben wants in exchange. Quick Ben cursed internally since he wasn't able to read anything from Shadowthrone's response. He said, "My life, Lord. I wish the rope's reward lifted from me." Quick Ben went on to ask Shadowthrone that he wished to select the time and place of the attack, otherwise the one of whom he spoke would escape the hound's pursuit through the Warren of Chaos. Only Quick Ben himself could prevent that. All Shadowthrone needed was to have his hounds ready, and Quick Ben would call upon him at the proper moment. Shadowthrone said, "You've planned this well, wizard. As of yet, I can think of no way to kill both the creature and you. I commend you. How then do you intend to call upon me? Surely you'll not once again enter my realm." Quick Ben assured Shadowthrone that he would contact him again, but he could say no more about it. Shadowthrone asked how Quick Ben would prevent him from using his powers then to wring whatever lie hidden in Quick Ben's frail brain. Quick Ben said, "To answer that, Lord, you must answer my proposal first." He is a madman. The bloody cheek on this fella, eh?
Right? He is truly a madman, but he is, I'm assuming, an ex-priest of Shadow. And because of something that we know later, is this a prerequisite?
What, just being crazy?
Being crazy in general? Squirrely? I mean,
yes. We have multiple instances. Well, I can't say that. Oh, okay. Priest, maybe. Priestess, right. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. That'll make sense to those of you that are rereading the books. We'll get to that character later. Yeah. Shan growled, and this time Shadowthrone did nothing to rein her in. Quick Ben hastily said, "Given that you will seek to betray me at every opportunity, given that you'll hunt for the weaknesses in my plan, given all this, I would have your word that you will complete your part of the deal if all else fails you, Lord. Give me that, and I will answer your last question." Shadowthrone mulled over the response for a long time. He then said, "Ah, well, your cunning is admirable, wizard. I am astonished and, I must admit, delighted by this duel. My only regret is that you departed the paths of shadow. You would have risen far. Very well. You have my word. The hounds will be ready. Now, why shouldn't I shred your brain here and now, wizard?" Quick Ben said, "Your answer, Lord, is in your very words." He raised his arms and said, "I did indeed rise far, Shadowthrone, in service to you." He opened his warren and said, "You'll not have me, Lord, because you can't." He whispered a word of chaos that caused him to recoil. It felt as if a giant hand closed around him. As it pulled him back into his warren, he heard Shadowthrone's scream of recognition. "It is you, Delat! You shape-shifting bastard!" Quick Ben smiled. He'd done it. He was out of reach. He'd done it again.
Oh.
What an amazing interaction.
Oh, I know it.
For him to go into the lion's den, or more, stick his head in the lion's mouth, would take so much courage. To do it multiple times, as we just learned that he has, is insanity. It just shows you his level of confidence in relation to his craftiness and his abilities. And it's what earned him the name Quick Ben.
He is truly one of the craziest of the guys, isn't he? He has to be.
Yeah.
Of the bridge burners. I mean,
just the shenanigans that he comes up with and actually does. It's wild.
It is.
Yeah. I also love seeing more of Shadowthrone. As his character is fleshed out, he becomes increasingly interesting to me. I mean, he's crazy with all the giggling and stuff, but he's really cool.
Yeah, and he's crafty. And I love how it's because he loves deals. I'm almost curious if it's almost like if this is this world's version of the devil almost. A guy that just loves deals.
Yeah, but he's not. I don't know that he's evil.
He's not sinister. He's just crafty and squirrely.
Yeah, I don't know that he's outright evil.
No, I don't think he's necessarily evil.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious about but it just kind of, because it just kind of strikes me, something about the bargaining.
Oh, yeah. Who run Barter Town? You familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
Oh, my God, Billy.
I say that. I don't know if I would tell me.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh, I've only watched Thunderdome once. I can't take it.
I'll send you a clip. I'll send you this clip in particular.
That's what I've mercifully forgotten. Because
this is the scene you need to remember, because Tina Turner, who thinks she run Barter Town, is being schooled by Master Blaster, who do run Barter Town.
Okay, it's Master and Blaster. It's yes, but it's. I remember Master Blaster, and I also remember the Tina Turner song that was, commissioned for the movie. That was a huge hit, which I'm not a big Tina Turner fan to begin with, but I love Mad Max because Road Warrior was a movie that just, man, that movie hit at just such a strange point in my life, and I fell in love. I grew up in the 70s. We had such bleak apocalyptic movies, They weren't happy ending apocalyptic science fiction movies. No, these were all bleak. People kill themselves kind of endings.
Like Omega Man.
Oh, Omega Man style plus Soylent Green or Logan's Run.
Mm-hmm.
That's my big three.
Okay.
Logan's Run in particular. I've actually been. It's kind of funny. They did some interiors in Dallas and also some exteriors for Logan's Run. So I've been there on a prom. So, but yes, I've been really scarred by those movies. They're very bleak.
What did you think of Fury Road?
I couldn't take it. I didn't even make it through like 30 minutes into it. It's like, yeah, I don't know what it was about it. It was like it's a carnival like going on the entire time around. Like, I just kind of, maybe I need to try it again. But I couldn't. I
guess you're not real big on that universe, I guess, huh?
No, it's just I'm big on Mel.
Okay.
I love Gibson. Gibson is Mad Max. Awesome. I do love Tom. I love Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
This is nothing. I'm not critiquing Tom Hardy. There's just something about it. I don't know what the style of the movie. Something about it was too crazy, too much going on.
It starts out very intense.
Yeah, maybe that was what it was.
It's like 15 minutes of nonstop adrenaline. It's crazy.
Sense. I'm like, what's going on here? I didn't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
A bunch of cars and people in cars doing
and
some crazy stuff in cars. And
tornadoes and...
It's like, exactly. I'm like, what's going on here, man? It's like, is our guy winning? It's like, I don't know if he's winning or not. He's staying alive, I guess. That's all I guess that's the important bit of an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll give it another shot. The one I'm disappointed, I don't know if I told you, the one I'm having a hard time, I'm trying to sell KP on the Terminator stuff. She's never seen Terminator.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time.
Did we cover that? Okay.
I think a couple episodes ago you mentioned that she hadn't seen any of them.
I know it. I'm shocked that she loves 80s movies, but she thinks it's an action flick. I'm like, no, the first two are horror movies. They're straight up horror movies.
Well, Terminator 2
is... It is action big time, but it's James Cameron. And I love and hate James Cameron. This is the reason why I love James Cameron is Terminator 1, 2, and Aliens.
What about Abyss?
I don't remember The Abyss. I've seen it. I don't remember it, though.
It's good.
Anything he does is good, but I've had zero interest. I never saw Titanic. I have zero interest in Avatar whatsoever. I've never seen the first one because I've seen Dances with Smurfs.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was what it was anyhow, which is so. All I can ever think about is Eric coming out of the theater cursing about the fact that the movie's already been made. It's like,
all right, let's get back on track here.
Sorry for that big digression.
Kruppa arrived at Baruch's residence and was taken to the study without delay. It's noted that he enjoys confounding the delays when they are put in place, as we have seen him do in the past. Poor Roald.
Yeah.
He sat and wiped a sweaty brow with a handkerchief. Baruch growled at Kruppa, taking his time to arrive, then asked if Kruppa had any news. Kruppa told him that they continued to protect the coin bearer, but had no luck in finding the Malazan infiltrators. This was a necessary lie. Kruppa then said he had a message from an unusual source. Even the delivery of the message to Kruppa had been strange. Baruch was short of temper and said, "Get on with it."
I'm always reminded of, like, the Holy Grail, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. When the narrators are going around, there's like that big crowd of guys on the hill are like, "Get on with it!" There's like the crowd of thousands yelling, "Get on with it!" So any "get on with it" reference always gets that image in my brain.
Okay. Kruppa said, "It was a message to Baruch personally from the eel." Baruch scowled and muttered, "Why not? The man even knows who my agents are." He looked at Kruppa and said, "I'm waiting." Kruppa mopped his brow again and said, "Look to the streets to find those you seek. That and no more." Delivered to Kruppa by the smallest child he'd ever seen. He stopped himself, having realized the exaggeration was too much with Baruch in such a foul mood. He said, "A small child, in any case." Baruch stared into the fireplace. He said, "Tell me, Kruppa, what do you know of this eel?" Kruppa said, "Little," Kruppa admits. "Man, woman, unknown. Origins, a mystery. Designs, perpetuating a status quo defined by aversion to tyranny. Or so it's said. Influence, far-reaching. Even if one discounts 9 out of 10 rumors associated with the eel, his or her agents must number in the hundreds, all devoted to protecting Darujistan. 'Tis said that Councilman Turban Orr is even now hunting them down, convinced they've ruined all his schemes. Mayhap they have, and for that we can all be relieved." Baruch was not relieved. He proceeded to give Kruppa a mission. He was to gather Murillo, Rallick, Call, and the coin-bearer. They were to keep the coin-bearer safe by removing him from the city, out of anyone's reach. The mission was to observe and nothing more. Doing anything more could cause the coin-bearer to fall into the wrong hands. While he was Opan's tool, he was a means for other ascendants to reach Opan. The last thing they wanted was a battle between gods on the mortal plane. Kruppa asked what they were looking for. Baruch said he wasn't sure, maybe a foreign work party digging around. Kruppa started, then said, "As in road repairs?" Baruch didn't pick up the hint. Instead, he told Kruppa he was going to the Gadrobi Hills and was to remain there until summoned or contacted with further instructions. Kruppa was to avoid detection at all costs and use his warren if required. What warren?
I'm glad you asked.
I actually tried to find information about it, and it's just a bunch of people guessing.
It is. What was the most common guess? Did you have?
Well,
a common guess?
I didn't see any consistency. I did see Makra mentioned.
Makra seemed to be the one that made sense to me because of the communications.
Yeah, Makra again is kind of the one. It's kind of like mind control. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yes.
Type stuff.
But the funny thing is that the same person also mentioned the fact that somebody who shall remain nameless from later on in the series mentions that Makra can't be elder.
Yeah. I think we read the same post then, because I think I saw something about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we read the same post. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there was Mianus wasn't another one that was mentioned, I think, in another post.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But that was like the fake, it was the illusion.
Right.
The warren of illusion.
The illusionary warren of illusion.
Right. It's like the fake warren of shadow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's going to be difficult to swallow that one, but
the shadowy warren of shadow. There was also word of he might have many warrens at his disposal.
Right. But I only know of one person that way. We only know of one person that does that, though. Proven so far.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that would be Quick Ben, because he is weaving things together, as noted by Tattersale.
Yes.
Kruppa assures Baruch that none shall find them. Baruch dismisses Kruppa. Kruppa was surprised and rose to leave. He asked when they should leave for the hills. Baruch told him soon that he'd give him a day's notice. Kruppa mentioned that Rallick may be temporarily unavailable, but with luck that may change. Baruch told Kruppa that if the coin-bearer turned his influence against them, then Rallick was to kill him. He asked if Rallick understood this. That's savage, man.
Oh, what you mean, to kill the coin-bearer?
To kill the coin-bearer, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is. It's just but apparently that's just a big piece we can't have floating around out there.
He's just a boy, man.
He is just a boy.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that. He said the boy. He did a little boy. Sorry.
Get some mustard on.
Some French fried taters and some mustard.
Kruppa says, "We've discussed it." Baruch inclined his head and fell silent. Kruppa waited for a moment, then left. Less than an hour after the ritual began, Kalam observed Quick Ben returning to his body. Kalam was red-eyed with exhaustion from the tension he experienced while waiting. He stood and waited for Quick Ben to wake up. Kalam put his hands on his knives, preparing in the case a demon had possessed Quick Ben. He held his breath. Quick Ben opened his eyes, then saw Kalam and smiled. Kalam asked if he was successful. Quick Ben said, "Yes, on both counts. Hard to believe, isn't it?" This caused Kalam to grin even more. He helped Quick Ben to his feet. Quick Ben leaned heavily against him. Quick Ben said, "He realized who I was just as I left. You should have heard him scream." His grin got even bigger. He loves it, man.
I know it. He's crazy. He's just so crazy. He loves it. He's so funny, but he's way too crazy to have as a good friend. I'd be too worried about this guy all the time. You'd probably get killed being friends with him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's the kind of guy that would walk up to a hooved animal and pull its tail just to see what would happen. Right?
Yeah.
See if he can get away with it.
Yeah. And you'd be the one kicked.
Sounds about right. Kalam asked, "Well, are you surprised? How many high priests burn the robes of their vestment?" Quick Ben quipped, "Not enough, if you ask me. Without temples and priests, the gods' bloody meddling couldn't touch the mortal realm. Now, that would be paradise, right, friend?" A voice from the doorway said, "Perhaps." It was Sari. Kalam demanded to know what she was doing there. Sari said, "You dream of paradise, wizard? I wish I'd heard the entire conversation." Quick Ben wanted to know how she had found them. Sari didn't answer his question. Instead, she told them she'd found an assassin in Phoenix Inn. She asked if they were interested. Kalam said, "I want answers." Quick Ben backed away to give Kalam room to work and to prepare his own spells if required, though he was not really in fighting shape at the moment. Sari said Whiskey Jack sent her. Kalam called out the lie, saying Whiskey Jack didn't know where they were. Sari admitted that she had sensed Quick Ben's power. It had a notable signature. Quick Ben was stunned. He said, "But I established a shield around this place." So he can be surprised.
Apparently he is mortal still, so.
Sorry.
It's almost like a Han Solo line. But I did establish, but I established a shield around this place.
Yeah. Sari said she was surprised as well. It seemed cracks had appeared. Quick Ben thought about it, then decided that cracks wasn't the right word, but she didn't know that. She'd sensed his location due to her linkage with the rope, and by extension the Shadow Realm. Only a servant of Shadow had the sensitivity to detect the link between Quick Ben's body and the realm he had entered. Quick Ben moved forward and set a hand on Kalam's shoulder, which startled him. He told Kalam that she was right. She was a natural talent in the ways of sorcery. He went on to say that she had found what they had been looking for, and that they should move on it. Sari told them she wasn't going with them, but they'd know the assassin when they saw him. It looked like his task was to make his profession obvious. Perhaps the guild had anticipated them. She then repeated he was located at the Phoenix Inn. Kalam questioned what she was up to. She told him Whiskey Jack had assigned her a task. Then she left the hut. What do you think that is? Is that following Kruppa?
Yes. Well, that's the initial task was that, yeah, to follow Kruppa. Okay. Not, but her keeping an eye on these boys is purely her own initiative, or the ropes initiative.
Quick Ben and Kalam discussed her being who they thought she was, and that if Kalam had attacked her, they'd both be dead. Quick Ben assured Kalam that they'd take her out when the time came, but for now they needed her. They left for the Phoenix Inn, discussing ordering drinks. Yeah, they had a very stressful night.
Yes, they have.
Ralik noticed Kalam the second he walked in. The pommels of Kalam's knives had a cross-hatched pattern which was recognizable to all in the trade as the mark of an assassin. Kalam walked to the bar and ordered a drink. No one got in his way. Ralik's mind was spinning with possibilities. Kalam obviously wanted to be noticed, and it didn't make sense to Ralik. Ralik didn't think the Empire Claw were taking out the guild like his clan leader Ocelot suspected. Ralik wasn't even sure if Kalam was a Claw. If he was, why would he show himself? Murillo noticed Ralik's unease and asked if something was wrong. Ralik said, "Guild business. You thirsty?" Murillo grinned and said, "An offer I can't refuse." Ralik looked at Call and wondered about the 5 black dragons remark he had made. He wandered to the bar and elbowed a boy in the back on his way there. The boy gasped, then slipped through the bar toward the kitchen. I think this was a signal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of goes through the kitchen out to the back.
Yeah.
Ralik arrived at the bar and ordered a pitcher from Skirv. He knew he had been marked by Kalam. He didn't need to look to confirm it. He'd done what Ocelot had asked of him, but he suspected he'd ask for more. He took the pitcher back to the table where Murillo played his part and drank most of the pitcher, then excused himself. Murillo said, "Well, Kruppa's scurried off, Crocus too, and Call's once again dead to the world. Ralik, I thank you for the ale. Time to find a warm bed. Until the morrow, then." That's on brand for Murillo.
Right.
Yeah. Ralik sat for another 5 minutes, only looking towards Kalam once. Then he rose and strode to the kitchen. He walked out into the alley, and Ocelot stepped out from a shadowed recess in the wall opposite the inn. Ralik said, "It's done. Your man is the big black one nursing an ale. 2 daggers, hatch-marked. He looks mean and not one I'd like to tussle with. He's all yours, Ocelot." Ocelot's face twisted. He told Ralik to go back inside and to make damn sure he'd been noticed. Ralik crossed his arms and drawled, "I'm sure already." Ocelot sneered, "You're to draw him out, lead him into Tarlo's warehouse, into the loading grounds. Vorkin's order, Nom. And when you head out, do it by the front door. No mistakes, nothing subtle." Ralik argued that the man was an assassin. If it was too obvious, he'd know it was a trap, and they'd be all over him in seconds. Ocelot snapped, "You do as Vorkin wills, Nom. Now get back inside." Ralik stared at Ocelot long enough to make his disgust known, then went back inside. Once he exited the kitchen, he saw that Kalam was no longer there. He shrugged and said, "Front door it is." So nonchalant.
Oh, I love it.
Could be walking into an ambush.
Yep. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Crocus
goodness.
leaned against the wall in an alleyway, watching the Darl Maiden's window. The light had gone out 15 minutes ago. He was numb with exhaustion and plagued with doubts. Again he wondered what he was doing here. His resolve had left him. He wondered if it had been the dark-haired woman in the Phoenix Inn. The blood on her dagger made it obvious that she'd kill him to keep her secret. It could have also been the spinning coin that had confused him. He wondered what was so wrong with his dream of being introduced to the Darl Maiden, since it had nothing to do with the killer woman in the bar. He said nothing out loud, then scowled for talking aloud to himself. He thought everything had begun the mad unraveling the night he'd robbed the maiden. If only he hadn't looked at her face.
Well, I thought he was looking at something else, though.
I was going to say, I don't think it's just the face that...
Yeah, there were some other attributes on display.
He groaned and thought, a highborn. That was the real problem, wasn't it? The whole thing seemed stupid now. He wasn't sure how he had convinced himself such a thing as meeting her was possible. It didn't matter. He'd planned the job to return the goods, and it was time to do it. He muttered, I don't believe this. I'm about to put a maiden's ransom back. Reaching the stone wall he'd been looking for, he began to climb. The stone was wet, but he had enough determination in him to scale a mountain. He climbed on and did not slip even so much as a single foothold.
Right on.
This dude here is free soloing this climb with intense focus, almost as if he was climbing El Capitan itself.
Yeah. He's got that Alex Honnold look, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Straight ahead. Straight ahead. I know that reference. I showed my dad that movie, by the way. He loved that movie. That's a good movie.
Yeah, it's really good. You need to watch 14 Peaks. Have you seen that?
14. Is that my dad? Is that on Netflix?
Yeah.
I think is someone killed in that one?
Someone almost dies. I don't know that anybody actually dies in the movie.
Okay. There's one that my parents refer to that while that the guy that the movie was about actually did die. I'm not sure if it was during the film.
No, there was a different rock climber. There was a documentary about another one that had died.
Okay, that's what they were talking about because they were thinking about Honnold. It's like while we were watching the Honnold one, the Solo movie, it refers to the fellow passing.
The 14 Peaks is about mountain climbing, not rock climbing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's really good. Just watch it. Yeah, I think we've talked about it before, so stop. All right, so with Crocus scaling the mountain, that ends the chapter.
That ends the chapter.
Standout moments. Billy, would you like to lead us through this?
There's a lot of it. Kruppa meeting with Mammoth and the hints of power that both of these guys, we never really see what it is, but what it hints at. I'm not sure what it is, but I like it. They're very powerful fellows, and they both work for Baruch.
What does Mammoth bring to the table?
I don't know. We'll later on, Mammoth becomes involved. We know, but I don't know exactly what he even brings other than just intelligence.
Yeah. He has a warrant though, right?
He does. He is an alchemist, but I think he's kind of fallen to the wayside of more and more knowledge. He's obviously obsessed with Darujistan and whatever specialty he is. I'm assuming he is some kind of magic user, but it's like he's bent everything into knowledge as opposed to power or other forms of mastery of the power.
He's gone the super intellect route.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And Ben and Shadowthrone, the whole visit there with Warren, how lippy he is to Shadowthrone, the talk with the dogs, how he tells, he even says something about that. Ask how that one was doing, after being, almost mortally wounded.
I mean, just the sheer audacity of that visit.
I know it.
It's incredible.
And
the interactions and Shadowthrone's recognition of him and his response. Love it. That is one of my core memories of this book.
Yes.
Shadowthrone raging when he realizes that Quick Ben got away from him again.
Again. Again. I love it. That's part of what that enforces for me some of the wondering if he was more like the trickster / devil imager in this world because of the fact that he's been tricked multiple times by the same person. And that's why I think the devil has been tricked by Constantine in DC multiple times. So I think about that. It has a very very funny parallel with that.
Interesting.
But then of course him getting away from Shadowthrone is like you said, as he recognizes it, whatever he says makes him recognize it. As it's like you
can't have me.
I can't. Not only can I not just pull the wool over your eyes, I've got to give you the finger while I'm doing it. And that's straight up John Constantine. I mean, that is straight up Constantine. Nice. But I do like that the interaction with Sari showing up there, where she scares these guys quite a bit. That scares them.
Yeah.
That says a lot. That they're worried about her and her showing up. Like, wait, what? How did she get here? Why does she know to even be here?
Yeah, I mean, it confirms some suspicions for them.
Yes.
And them being scared of her is entirely related to them knowing her relationship to the rope, right?
Yeah. Yes, especially, and you know what? This read through in particular makes that a little more intimate to my knowledge. That it's like, oh, she could have been there to kill Ben as well, just because he's incurred the ire of Shadowthrone. just on the way out, after you take care of all that business, take that dude out. And then, of course, Rallick. I love Rallick, and so watching him at the Phoenix and watching Kalam and knowing he's got to go out and possibly face him, which we won't know until next week what happens, but I love that.
Is that fight next week?
I think, boy, if it's next, if it's next week, dude. This is the warehouse next week?
Maybe.
It could be. I think it is. I think it is.
Dude, that's one of my, I can't wait for that.
Standout, another great moment that stands out.
On the point of Rallick, him popping off to Ocelot.
I love when he mouths off to Ocelot a lot. You want it, and there he
great.
is. It's like, I don't. It's like, there he is.
Yeah. It's
And I love how it's like, partially kind of how Ocelot's like. I feel like it's kind of Ocelot seen him and done a double take and like, well, no, wait a minute now. I need you to go back in there and make sure he's really seen you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Did you have any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Just love the great job of the constant build, even on the in between chapters that he's kind of doing some more just exposition. The build up is always great, and the payoff is always worth it in this series.
Yeah, the Shadow Throne / Realm of Shadow visit was really standing out.
Yeah.
This episode that was really
very
good.
much so.
Yeah,
very much so.
Good job tonight.
Yeah, great episode.
All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yep, see you next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at HorseFrogProductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.